Yacht Ka for that lovely Tuvan throat singing of Om Mani Padme Hum, which of course has the name Padme in it. Padme, lotus. The Tibetan version of Padme is Peme. It's just kind of a slight accent of Padme. So you might hear some people or some versions of that chant, Om Mani Padme Hum, or Hung. Om Mani Padme Hung is the Tibetan version of Om Mani Padme Hum. So that's what's going on there. First off, I should tell you that I am speaking to you from the 16th of March, 2022. The date on the podcast episode is a lie. If you're listening to this on the podcast, I believe it'll say January 14th. If you're on YouTube, then, this is going to be in the playlist after Dhammapada 6, before Lotus Sutra 1. But the date is not a lie. You'll see that it was uploaded probably on the 16th of March. So this is, I should mention for people who have no idea what they're getting themselves into, the title is something like Introduction to Lotus Sutra or Lotus Sutra Introduction. This episode, this thing you're hearing with me talking right now, is not an introduction to the Lotus Sutra. What it is an introduction to 16 half-hour-long episodes that have already been recorded, in which I ensure a place for myself in the Avicii hells by criticizing the Lotus Sutra according to the Lotus Sutra. So in other words, the Lotus Sutra says, hey, if you don't like this, if you criticize it, if you tell other people that this isn't good, you're going to go to the lowest level of hell. I think I'll try that in my next book. I'll just at the end say, if you don't give this 5 stars on Amazon, you're going to burn in hell, mother lover. No, I don't think that would fly in this day and age. I think people have to be a little bit less literate and educated for that to pull the wool over their eyes like it did, no doubt, when the Lotus Sutra was written. Okay, so what happened was, you might have heard me talk about this before, maybe in the introductory episode, if you started from episode 1. I'll just cut short. I recorded 16 episodes in which I was reading half-an-hour bits of the Lotus Sutra. And after those 16 episodes, I decided I couldn't anymore, and so I ordered as many books as I could from the Polytech Society, and determined that I was just going to dive into Theravada, perhaps for the rest of my life. I did not like the way that the Lotus Sutra framed everything that came before it. I did not like the fact that it really seemed to want to try to convince people that it was really the Buddha, as in Siddhartha Gautama, talking, saying, hey, never mind everything I said before, now I've come with the real teachings, and everything I said before is Hinayana. And that is, I couldn't get into it. As I have a lot of friends who are like, oh, the Lotus Sutra is my favorite sutra. I love the Lotus Sutra. Come chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo or Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. I'm not wrong. Look it up. There's people who chant it one way. There's people who chant it the other way. So get off my case. Anyway, so yeah, a lot of people were way into the Lotus Sutra. Religions are founded based on it. All kinds of Mahayana religions and sort of crossbreeds of Mahayana and Vajrayana in Japan are based on the Lotus Sutra, like primarily. And so yeah, I found myself in a position where, as a Caucasian man, a white man, wearing an appropriated Bhutani Buddhist monk's robe, here I am, criticizing and even sometimes like almost yelling at whoever wrote the Lotus Sutra. And I just felt like, and then I got to the part, probably one of many parts, I imagine, where it starts talking about how if you criticize this at all, or if you teach it in a way that isn't just blowing smoke up its arse, then you're going to burn in hell, And so I just couldn't anymore. I had to put it down. And then kind of in that same, frame of mind, I started reading this Pali literature book because it was all I had. I had already read Dhammapada, and so I started reading this, And I was so happy to not be reading the Lotus Sutra. And I took all 16 episodes of my recital of the Lotus Sutra down. To cut short, I'm putting them back up. And that's what this is introducing, is the next thing you're going to hear on this podcast, on this playlist, is the first and then the following, 15, a total of 16 half-hour long, approximately, episodes, in which, it has ups and downs. It's not all negative. It's just it got to the point where I think around episode 7 was pretty negative. And episode 8, I was trying to apologize, but it was half-hearted. Then episode 12 was very negative, and episode 13 was trying to apologize, but it was half-hearted. And then episode 16 was very negative, and it got into the part where it said I was going to go to hell for all the criticizing I've been doing of the Lotus Sutra. And so at that point, I was like, I can't, I'm done, and I took it down. So that's what's coming up for you. If you want to listen to that, it's fun, maybe, if maybe you agree with me. I mean, I know that there's at least 2 people that I know that are aware of Buddhism that are Buddhists. One was born Buddhist and the other chose Buddhism and is Theravadan. Probably Theravadins would maybe agree with everything I say in these next 16 episodes, but probably, devout Mahayana or people who were raised Mahayana or people who have a knee-jerk reaction to seeing a white guy talking shit about Buddhism in any context or any sutra, or someone who's been chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo for the past several years might not enjoy it as much, but maybe if you want to challenge yourself to hear my point of view as I'm reading it in real time, responding to the words that I'm reading in real time, that's what it is about, 8 hours of that, right? But some of it is just me talking and rambling and sharing personal stories. So basically, my original plan was, okay, I'm just going to dive into Theravada, and when I'm done with Theravada, I'm going to take these 16 episodes. I know I've been saying 15 episodes. It turns out it's 16. And I'm going to stick them there and then just keep reading from that point forward. But honestly, I don't know how long I'm going to be reading the Pali Canon. So I decided to just own it, to just say, I'm not proud of this, but here it is. These are 16 episodes of me reading the Lotus Sutra and responding in real time. And then I stopped. And then I decided to dive into Theravada, so that's what comes afterward, is episode 1 through however many of the series on Buddhist books called Pali Scriptures, where I'm reading Pali literature and a little bit reading this Sasanavamsa translation that's not really a translation. Anyway. So if you don't want to hear like kind of a negative nilly, is that a thing? Take on the Lotus Sutra, you can skip to episode 1 of Pali Scriptures, which is 17 episodes from now on the podcast, or you can skip down on the playlist, or you can just decide, the Dhammapada was boring, and now I don't know what he's talking about. I don't think I want to listen to this podcast anymore, and I totally respect that decision as well. I would definitely not. I mean, I'm not saying this with like any kind of spite or sarcasm. If you're not into this, listen to something else. I mean, your time is precious. It's valuable. So surely there's, if you haven't heard all the Alan Watts lectures, I do recommend those. You can find them on, Torah Droid, or a legitimate source, probably YouTube. You can watch them for free. I think there's like an estate or whatever that owns them, and you can probably get all the recordings from there. And if you want to Google KQED Alan Watts, you can find some of the old black and white sort of Mr. Rogers style shows that he did back in 1959, where he talks about Buddhism to a Western audience in 1959. So that's interesting and amusing. He was already in his 40s, but he was like kind of thin and very serious. It was before he grew the beard out and became more of a hippie and started hanging out with Chung Yung Trungpa and others. So yeah, I mean, did I say everything? Did I cover everything? I hope so. So yeah, this is my introduction to the Lotus Sutra portion of the Buddhist Books podcast, the Edward Reeves Buddhist Books podcast. And If you decide to listen to those episodes, then I'm putting them back up today. So they will suddenly appear on the podcast for people who already subscribe, and they'll reappear back in the playlist for people looking at the playlist. And all right, so I guess that's it. And I'll close this episode as I close any other episode, most other episodes anyway, with the prayer that my dad taught me when I was very young. And I was about his age. Put him here by the emblem of India, the Ashok pillar, right? Okay. To the north and to the south, to the east and to the west, to the spirits of light among us and to the spirits below, we send out our reverent love and compassion. May all beings be happy. May all beings be serene. May all beings be in peace. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for going on this ride with me. Until next time.